Okay, um, so right now I'm going to show you guys how to make a joint piece for your wax sculpture, your wax model. So I got a big old spool of wire. I don't remember what the gauge is for this wire is. Um, if you look at my fingers and you look at the wire, you can pretty much tell that it's a pretty heavy duty wire. So I cut a piece of wire a little bit longer than what I needed. And it's always good to have more than what you need in case if you've come up short, you are out of luck. So um, I probably could have measured what I had in my template, but I was going to go through all that trouble. So there you go. So I'm going to see what length I need to make that first bend. It's always a good idea to measure twice and cut once, or measure twice and measure twice again. Now I'm using my thumb as a unit, using a measurement, and then using my pliers to bend it at that point. So here I go. Trying to be careful here. It's always a good idea to have a pair of goggles with you while you're and cutting with wire, because a lot of times wire will behave unexpectedly. You know, if especially when you're cutting a piece, like a small piece of wire, it'll shoot out really far and fast when you're snipping a piece of wire. And then when the wire is long, if the wire is long enough, it'll like wobble all over the place, and you don't know where it's going to go. Sometimes most of the time when I bend a piece of wire, the length that I measured will change. So, so I have to measure again to see if I'm still headed in the right direction. And it looks like I'm okay. So I'm gonna squeeze that bend. Sometimes, well, when you bend it at that point, make it'll it'll lengthen the length of the piece that you measured. So I'm trying to make it as straight as possible, because this is a key and it's supposed to slide into the keyhole that you're going to make, and it's supposed to slide back out. So, it's okay if it's slightly irregular shape. Maybe it's better that way, because once you put it insert it into the wax, it could make it a little bit more difficult to fall out. Like, you don't want it to be super loose, because if it's super loose, it'll just fall out, and you don't you don't really want it to do that. So I'm just trying to straighten it out. as well as I can. Eh, that looks like it's okay. It's good enough, I guess. Measure, see if I did it right. That's pretty close. It's pretty much the same. It looks like that other one is a little bit longer than the other one, but I try to make it. I try to make the joints the same length. Like, say if I'm going to use those as an elbow joint, I'm going to want to make every part the same length as possible. Um, so that because the human body is pretty symmetrical on both sides. A lot of people say that the human body isn't perfectly symmetrical, but it's pretty darn close. And then you know you have to consider the human touch as a sculptor or as an artist. Um, we're not perfect machines that can mirror images, mirror side by side objects, or like mirror the left from the right of objects such as the human body perfectly. So I think it's best to try to achieve that as best as you can, rather than accepting it as, oh, the human body isn't symmetrical anyway, so it's good enough. I can understand if we are machines and we're sculpting a human body, and it would be like creepy, I guess, or just something's just not right where you made everything perfectly symmetrical. I can understand that, but I think as a traditional artist, I think it's okay to try to achieve that, because uh, you're not gonna you're not going to actually achieve it. I think it's just a better way of thinking to it's a better way of thinking, I think. So I think I had to readjust that end because I bent it a little bit too short, so I had to readjust it with the pliers. So there's a lot of readjusting. Uh, that's why I don't. Um, that's why I don't flatten the ends right away with the pliers like I do, because in case it comes up too short, I can easily readjust it. But that at this point where it's crimped down, it's a little bit more difficult. So then, like at this point, I would have to straighten it out again, and then bend it again. Taking my time to measure that thing out. I wasn't exactly sure. Um, I think that looks about right. So at that point, it's almost like with that gauge of wire, when it's all the way down to the tip of the wire cutters, it's almost nearly impossible for me to cut it. I would have to put a lot of pressure on it, and I'm not that strong. I'm strong. I'm pretty strong, but I'm not that strong. So I made a little dent, and I was easily able to bend it and break it off. So I'm comparing again just to make sure. Like, it's a little longer than that part, but just a little bit. But I think it'll be all right.